My name is Patrick von Arx. I'm an attorney from Zurich. Today I would like to give you a quick briefing on the key features of civil litigation in Switzerland. As a starting point, I would like to explain to you the Swiss civil court system, how it works and looks like here in Switzerland. As you might know, Switzerland is divided into 26 cantons, and in each canton we have several courts. Normally there are several district courts in each canton, and normally there is a court of appeals as a second level of the judicial system. But the cantons, they are free to organize their judicial system. So there are some cantons where you only have one court on a first level, and then you have a court on a second level. Whereas, as just mentioned before, in most cantons, you have several courts on the first level and one court on the second level. On a third level, we have the Swiss Supreme Court. It's the duty of the Swiss Supreme Court to make sure that the cantonal court, that they correctly apply the Swiss law. Because as you might know, the Swiss Code of Obligation and the Swiss Civil Code, that's not cantonal law, no, that's Swiss federal law. So we have a uniform Code of Obligation and uniform Swiss Civil Code throughout Switzerland. And therefore, we also need the Swiss Supreme Court to make sure that the cantonal courts, that they correctly apply our law throughout Switzerland. So that's the basic function of the Swiss Federal Court. But as just mentioned, we have these three levels of courts: the district courts, the courts of appeals in the cantons, and then we have the Swiss Supreme Court. What you can see here, that's the Swiss Code of Civil Procedure, which applies in all cantons. So if you litigate on a district court level, or if you also litigate on the level of the Cantonal Court of Appeals, the Act will apply throughout Switzerland. And there is a second Act, and this Act particularly only applies to civil litigation on the level of the Swiss Supreme Court, meaning on the level of on the third level. So we have these two acts which govern litigation in Switzerland. Now let's talk about how you initiate a claim here in Switzerland. As a general rule, you must file your claim with the judge of peace. With the judge of peace, which is competent in Switzerland to adjudicate your claim. And it will be the task of the judge of peace to find a friendly solution among the parties. And if that's not possible, normally the judge of peace, he does not have the authority to render a judgment, but he only has the authority to state that no friendly solution has been found. And then he will give to the claimant the permission to file his claim in the ordinary court, meaning in the court of first instance. That's the district court. And then in the district court you will have the full court proceedings, and the district court, it will render a judgment, and depending on the amount in dispute, you can appeal this judgment to the Court of Appeals, and then once again, depending on the amount in dispute, you can also appeal this judgment to the Swiss Federal Supreme Court. So that's basically how the three instances, how the three levels work, and how you start your claim. Once you have filed your claim with the district court, so that's the court of first instance, then in a first stage, the parties, they will file their briefs, meaning claimant will file the statement of claim, defendant will file the answer, and possibly the claimant will file a second brief, and the defendant will file a second brief as well. That's the fact-finding part of civil litigation. And then after this fact-finding part has been terminated, then the court will move to take evidence, meaning the court will in particular interview the witnesses. And once the evidence has been taken, the court will render its decision. And of course, as just mentioned before, this decision can be appealed normally to the Court of Appeals. That's the second level. And it can even be appealed to the Swiss Federal Supreme Court, depending on the amount in dispute. How much does it cost to litigate in Switzerland? In Switzerland, the court fees, they depend on the amount in dispute. So meaning if you have a higher amount in dispute, also the court fees will be higher. There are statutory laws saying how you calculate the court fees. And then we have the principle that the claimant, he must advance the court fees. And in the final judgment, the court will decide who must bear the court fees. And normally it will be the losing party who must bear all the court fees. Then in addition to the court fees, of course, you also have your personal fees for counsel, for parties' counsel. And as a starting point, each party bears its own attorney's costs, but the losing party, it must somehow compensate the winning party for its lawyer's fees. And once again, this compensation is calculated based on the statutory laws. But it's very important to know that the compensation which is stated by the law, it's quite low, meaning unfortunately you as the winning party, you will get a compensation for your lawyer's fees, but in practice this compensation, it will be smaller, it will be lower than the lawyer's fees which you have actually incurred. I hope this quick video has been helpful to you. See you next time. Goodbye.